Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. This show is about Plymouth County real estate. Our headline for the month was Sale Numbers on the Rise. Refinances continue to lag. This show is being taped in June, but we're reporting on the May recordings at the Registry of Deeds. I'm going to talk about the numbers for the month of May. I have a great guest in the second segment of the show, Diane Campisano of Weichert Realty, Briarwood Real Estate. And then we'll talk a little bit of our county and colony history. So the first thing you're going to see on the screen is a chart of deeds. There were 797 deeds recorded in May, more than the 717 recorded in April. The most this year, the calendar year, 14% less than last year. 2021 was a boomer year. A lot of people were recording during COVID. We're down 10% year to date. You're going to see a listing of deeds through the first 4 months of the year, from January, 5 months of the year, January through May. The highest number of deeds have been with Plymouth in Brockton, but every community has had sales. The biggest impacted report over the last number of months has been mortgages. You can see the drop-off in the mortgages. There was 1,793 mortgages recorded in May, less than the 1,891 in April, down 39% compared to last May. Back in 2021, there were a lot more people because of the rates refinancing, and that has pretty much dropped off based upon the increased rates. Year to date, we're down 44% in mortgages. We always follow foreclosure deeds very closely. We had a major crisis in 2008. There was a moratorium put in place during COVID, so those numbers are still artificially low. In May, there were only 10 foreclosure deeds throughout Plymouth County. A foreclosure deed is when a lender has taken back property from the owner, usually for non-payment. And if you're facing trouble in foreclosure, reach out to a federal housing counselor. It's 150% more than last May, again, because there was a moratorium on foreclosures. But be aware, if you're finding yourself in difficulty, reach out. That's all. You're all going to see it. Also going to see a chart of foreclosure notices. They're also very low. They're certainly higher than foreclosure deeds. There were 31 recorded in May, less than the 42 in April, but 63% more than in May of 21. 142% more year to date. So just be aware of what is happening on your property. If you're having trouble making payments, reach out to a federal housing counselor. You're also going to see a list of foreclosures and orders of notice all the way from Abington down to Whitman. As you can see, there are a lot of zeros in that marketplace, and we expect them to get worse as the moratorium effect lessens. Please be aware that we offer a free property fraud alert through our website at the Registry of Deeds. If you go on and put in your email, you will get notice when something is recorded against your name, and you can take an action based upon if it's unintended, that you didn't intend to do something on that site, and you can take action and try to avert further problems. And beware that there are companies out there that will send you mailings telling you you can get a copy of your deed, and they'll get it to you for $80. If you go to one of our offices, you can get a copy of your deed for $1 a page. Don't get caught up in that scam. I have a great guest coming on in the second segment of the show, Diane Campisano of Weichert Realty. Briarwood Real Estate, talking about the real estate market in Plymouth County, tips for buyers and sellers, and we'll see you in that segment. Thank you. Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we always do something educational in nature. We've had commercial lenders, commercial real estate brokers, assessors, appraisers, and we've always had a lot of realtors because realtors are the people on the ground in the real estate community. I have a great guest with me today, Darlene Campisano.
Yes.
Of Weichert Realtors, Briarwood Real Estate.
Correct.
And welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you had me here.
So tell our viewers a little bit about how you ended up in the real estate community.
Well, actually, it's funny because I had being a realtor as one of my on my bucket list.
Okay.
So when I actually retired from being an executive assistant, I took the course, of which is 40 hours, and took the tests and everything, and became a realtor. And I can tell you right now, the test is not easy. The test is very complicated. Mm-hmm. But I had already been friends with Bernie Hassan,
okay.
Who is the manager at Weichert, Briarwood, and he took me on as being one of his realtors, and I'm really happy to be with him.
Great, and as we talked earlier, Bernie's been on the show a
yes.
number of times,
yes.
including some of the early days in this show.
Right, right.
So why don't you talk a little bit about your company?
Weichert and Briarwood they're a very different kind of a company because we're trained to treat all of our clients very special. Each and every one of them, when we have a client come in, we tell them from beginning to end what the whole process is. We do what is called a doors presentation. And if they're selling their property, we tell them and we show them what we can do for them, how long the process is going to take, and we just treat everybody as if they're number one. And they are number one to us. And we just treat them all the same. It's very important to have the people, whether they be a seller or a buyer, feel very comfortable knowing that we're working specifically for them and what's best for them.
So Weichert is a larger company, it's a national company.
Yes, yes. I believe it's out of New Jersey.
Okay.
And this gentleman started very small and then ended up extending on, and they're all throughout the United States, but he actually looks over 40 of his own real estate agencies as well, but he keeps a close eye on the whole company, just to make sure that everybody's well trained and everybody's well taken care of.
And Briarwood real estate's been around for a while.
Yes.
And that merged into Weichert.
Right, exactly, yep.
Great. So I found it very fascinating that at one of your open houses this weekend, there were people that were there that hadn't found a realtor yet.
Correct, that's right, yeah. I did a open house on Saturday, and there were 7 of the people that came to visit the house that did not have a realtor, and I was really surprised at that. And of course, when they come in and they say something like that, I'm more than happy to give them my card, mm-hmm. and I have a nice long talk with them and tell them exactly what I can do for them. And especially if they're first-time home buyers, I give them the name of my loan originator and his contact phone number, and I tell them what the process is going to be, mm-hmm. and then we go from there, and they're very happy with that. We really had, I had 12 groups of people on Saturday, which is really good, and even Bernie had 30 at his open house, which is great as well.
That is good, even though the market's changing, that people are still active and looking.
Yes, exactly.
So you've obviously represented both buyers and sellers.
Yes.
So tell me what advice you would give to a seller that came to you and said, what should I do before I put my house on the market?
Well, what I would do is I go to their house and I take a look around. I'll give them advice, as to what can be updated, and if nothing needs to be updated, then I will take pictures of it, and I will go back to my office, and we do what is called a doors presentation. And that presentation lets them know exactly what the whole selling process is from beginning to end. And it makes them feel very comfortable with the whole process, and to know that we're behind them. And then what I'll do is I'll have a photographer come in and take nice pictures of their house, and then we list it on MLS. And we do open houses, whether it be during the week or mostly on weekends. On a Saturday and Sunday we do open houses. And even though the rates have gone up like they have, the houses really aren't staying on the market that long, which is really great, because we tell people ahead of time, this is where it's at, and the loan originators do the same thing, so that they know what they're looking for.
And there's still a shortage in inventory.
Yes, right now, yeah. There's actually more buyers out there than there are sellers.
Right. So, so that is something you walk them through.
Mm-hmm.
In a couple of cases, you told them to go get pre-approved.
Correct, right. If they're looking, a lot of them, if they're selling a house and they end up being able to buy a house that they can use full cash for, that's great. If they need extra monies in order to buy another residence, I will get them pre-approved with the loan originator, and then we go from there.
So we started to talk about prospective buyers out there, and some of them just kind of showed up.
Yes, I had 2 first-time home buyers, and they weren't even aware of the fact that before you can actually make an offer on a house, you need to be pre-approved. So what I did was, like, even for the sellers, I gave them the name of my loan originator and explained that they needed to get pre-approved, and so we have a pre-approval letter in order to put it with the offer letter in order to make an offer on a house.
So besides a pre-approval letter, what else would you suggest to potential buyers out there?
Just, excuse me, make sure that you stay within what you can afford. I mean, there's plenty of houses out there in different ranges. If you're looking for a fixer-upper, that's always good for some people. If you're looking to get into a bigger house, there's a lot of them out there at this time. And still, the construction companies are still building new houses as well. So there's not a lot of new houses out there too.
You mentioned one off of Ash Street in Brockton.
Yes. Oh, that was a beautiful house, yes. Yeah, and that's already under agreement, so that's how quickly these go.
So what advice would you give? I mean, we talked about sellers, we talked about potential buyers and what they should do. And I think we talked earlier, I am very concerned about how long it will take to get new homeowners into the market.
You know, it depends upon how much people have really put aside for a house, because you need to have a portion of it down. And there are a lot of different loans out there that give you a chance to either put down very little. There are a lot of VA loans out there that is 100% financing for VAs, which is excellent. I mean, we love to be able to find houses for VA people, you know, because they deserve something like that. As a matter of fact, one of my recent buyers just bought a beautiful home, and he went 100% VA. The process is a little longer than conventional, but it's not that much longer, only because VA has specific standards that they go by. Yeah, if you're really looking to buy a house, I'd say put your money in a savings account, and just keep looking and checking out different loan situations as well.
Yeah, I know Mass Housing has a lot of opportunities.
Yes, they do. Yeah, especially for low-income people that are looking to buy at this time. There's a lot out there.
So what are the typical down payments that you're seeing these days?
It could be conventional is usually around 3%. It can go as far as 5%, depending upon what type of loan you're looking at. That's why it's always excellent to have a good loan originator behind you, because he can actually look at what your finances are to let you know which is best for you. So that's why that's important as well.
Have you had many people that have actually done the home buyers training course?
Not really, but there are several places that actually do that. I know Harbor One Bank does that as well, which is great. If you really want to know what the whole process is, it's good to take one of those classes, because that lets you know right up front what to expect and how to move forward in the future.
So we're definitely in a changing marketplace, and it changes all the time.
Yes.
Rates I saw over the weekend are up to 6, which historically isn't that bad, but when people have been used to 3 and 4% interest rates, and many times when they saw lenders, that's what they were banking on.
Right.
How do you see this going forward?
Well, I hope that people can see that there's still going to be programs out there, especially for first home buyers, that makes it a little bit easier for them to be able to afford a house. I mean, the rate's going to go up more probably, but hoping that everybody's paychecks go up as well, you know, which makes life a little bit easier for everybody. And you know, I mean, I don't know how many people or how many families where there isn't a 2-income family, and it's more popular now than it ever has been, that both the husband and wife work. Because a lot of what's good about it is a lot of mothers can work from home nowadays, which makes it easier on them. But yeah, I can't see. But like I said, you know, with having the open house and having all these people show up, people are still having a positive attitude about buying a house at this time.
So today, as we talked about, the taping of the show is the summer solstice, the longest day of the year and the beginning of summer.
Right.
So where do you see us going, not so much through the summer, but as we make the turn into September, October, November?
That's a good question. I mean, we actually, since this season has started, we're starting to get more sellers coming on board, which is bringing up the inventory, which is nice, because at this time, like I was saying, we have more buyers out there than we have sellers. But now we're coming up with more sellers, which is great. So it's going to make the market that much better. I really can't say that I don't see that much of a change coming in September. I think it's going to be, that same trend is going to move forward because everybody's getting used to the rate hikes that are coming up. So I really don't see that we're going to have any kind of a problem coming up the rest of the year.
So again, we talked a little bit about what you would recommend to sellers. What would be your #1 tip from your experience as of recently to sellers?
To sellers, that would be, if you have a house to sell and it needs updates of any kind, to do as many updates as you possibly can, because the more updates you're going to do on your house, the more money you'll make from selling it. And the nicer it looks, it's more pleasing to the eye, especially to show.
Curb appeal.
Exactly. Exactly, and that's everything. And you know, everybody has a house in mind, so when they're looking, they already know what they're looking for.
Right.
So something catches their eye, they're right there, and I think that's going to stay the same. I think the sellers are the most important people, because like I said, if they get their property up to date and everything's nice, and I mean, there are a lot of people out there that also like to buy fixer-uppers as well. Right. They like to do handy things around the house, so they want to buy low and fix it up to what they expect their house to look like as well.
It's amazing to me, with all the changes in technology, how knowledgeable the home buyers are now. They've seen so much already on the internet.
Oh yes.
They've checked out the school system, they've checked out the neighborhood, they've looked other at other sales.
Right.
Compared to years ago when they would just, come in more blind.
Right.
And just take a shot at it.
Right, right. Yeah, well, that's like when we show a house, we usually tell them what the schools are in the area if they're not aware of the area, and how close you are to the highway or where the stores are and everything. So it gets them a feel of what that neighborhood is like, and they pretty much have an idea of if they want to make an offer on that house before they even leave.
And we did talk a number of times about buyers, but what is your number one tip to buyers?
Tip to buyers, that would be to follow your heart and actually make sure you have plenty of money to not only in your savings account, but you have to make sure that you can afford it, because you don't want to make it so that you can't live once you buy a house. So it's good to have a little on the side as well. You've always got to have that little bit of money on the side, just in case, like an emergency fund, because you never know if something's going to happen.
Do people ever have trouble with their credit report?
No, not that I know of. Yeah, usually that's why we have loan originators that actually pull all the reports, and they're the ones who actually, once they get approved for a loan, then they're golden.
So that is all done at the pre-approval?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
So if I could ask you to share your contact information with our viewers?
Oh, certainly. Sure. Darlene Campisano at Weichert Realty Briarwood Real Estate. I'm at 31 Belmont Street in southeastern Mass. And my cell number is 508-264-5868.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad to have
you. It was a pleasure.
Great. So welcome back to the Register's Report. Again, my name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. I want to thank Darlene Campisano of Weichert Realtors in Briarwood Real Estate for the great job Darlene did in expressing what is happening in the marketplace from a perspective of a realtor. Realtors are the people on the ground. They know what is exactly going on out there. At the time, she talked about recent open houses that she's had and clearly described what should happen with people coming on the marketplace as sellers and people coming into the marketplace as buyers. In this segment of the show, we talk a little bit about some of our holidays for the month. In June, National Donut Day was the 3rd, National Cheese Day the 4th, D-Day was the 6th, National Chocolate Ice Cream Day the 7th, Flag Day we celebrated recently on the 14th, Father's Day was the 19th, and we celebrated the Juneteenth holiday, only the second time in America that has been celebrated as a federal holiday. We're going to talk about that with some of our related notable land records. And today, the day of the taping of the show, is the beginning of the summer solstice, when summer began, and we're into the summer now. So you're going to see a image of a notable land record for Samuel Lincoln. Samuel Lincoln lived in Hingham, Massachusetts. He actually came to Massachusetts from Hingham, England, back in 1622. He came aboard the ship, the John and the Dorothy, and actually was born in 1622. He came in 1637. He is credited with building and helping in the building of the Hingham Old Ship Church. His dwelling of 2 acres was deeded by Cornelius Canterbury, and is right across from the Abraham Lincoln statue in Hingham. It is at 170 North Street. His great-great-great-grandson, Abraham Lincoln, was the 16th President of the United States and was very involved in the elimination of slavery through the Emancipation Proclamation, and was a major part in freeing slaves throughout America. I want to thank Tom Ryan, because back in those days, Hingham was part of Suffolk County. Tom Ryan works for Suffolk County and got us a copy of this deed. Another one of our notable land records related to this new holiday is the Liberty Tree. There was a big tree on what is now Frederick Douglass Way in downtown Brockton, where people on the Underground Railroad, slaves would escape from the South, and they would go from place to place to get north to freedom in Canada. But along the way, they were helped by people called conductors. On the property of Edward Bennett, he had a barn there that hid slaves as they were going forward to the north. But the place they told them to look for was this large, old sycamore tree, and that they would meet them by the sycamore tree and then protect them by bringing them into the barn. That tree became a very historic monument to the escape from slavery, and over the years, many famous abolitionists, including Frederick Douglass, who was a freed slave, spoke about freeing the slaves and helping the people that helped them move north to freedom. The Liberty Tree, unfortunately, was knocked down a few years ago because it was decaying. There is a new tree growing up in its place, and there is a plaque there put up by the Brockton High School class in 2004, the Brockton High School class of 1959, and it marks the spot. And the name of that street now has been called Frederick Douglass Way. You ever got out of your car and parked and taken a look at that? It's an important part of escaping from the south to the north and part of our elimination of slavery in this country. The next is Joshua James. In the summertime, a lot of people go to the beaches. A lot of people don't know that in the early days, they had to have lifesavers because of the current and because a lot of the ships were floundering on the shoals of the coastline. And in Hull in particular, there were a lot of shoals. But Joshua James, a native of Hull, whose mother and sister had drowned in a schooner accident, became America's most famous lifesaver. He's credited with saving hundreds of lives off damaged ships. If you haven't been to the Hull Lifesaving Museum, it's a great little museum in the town of Hull that tells this story. Unfortunately for Joshua James, in a life-saving training exercise, he was caught in the waves and he died in that exercise. He was buried in Hull, believe it or not, in a lifeboat for a casket, but he's still a very well-known person. Because of his achievements, he is still recognized today. The third Sunday in May is known as Joshua James Day. His home in Hull is marked by a plaque in his honor. And in addition, the United States Coast Guard grants a medal in his name annually to guardsmen with long and dedicated service. And last but not least, we always do one of our colonial records. We have the colonial records on the second story of the registry. This particular one is a story about when the colonial court decided to add one person from every town for jury duty. At some time in the future, those will be opened up again to the public. It's a fascinating story in those records. So I want to thank Brockton Cable Access for their help today, Athena Grant in particular. This is my 140th show on Brockton Cable Access, and we'll see you next month. I hope you have a great start to your summer. Thank you very much.